Fandoms here, we share the love. Every topic you're dreaming of. Join the chat, let's fan away. This is Fandoms, come and stay.
So today on the show, we'll be talking to Michelle about A Court of Thorns and Roses. Welcome to the show, Michelle.
Hey, Brody. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to geeking out with you.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this. So how did you first get into A Court of Thorn and Roses? How'd you discover the series?
Well, I actually first heard about ACOTAR. Well, we'll call it ACOTAR just because it's a really long title. About 4-ish years ago from my favorite book podcast, which I have to give a shout out to Currently Reading Podcast. They sold it as like this fairy tale retelling, a romantic fantasy, which they call romantasy these days. They said it had this massive legion of fans. And so I thought, I like fantasy, I like romance, I like fandoms. So I added it to my list. And shortly after that, I ended up laid out with COVID and found myself with 5 days of mandatory quarantine. So I picked up the first book and ended up reading the entire series in those 5 days. And I've been a devotee ever since.
That's great. Yeah, I honestly haven't read the series myself. I did do a deep dive on the YouTube video Carrie Can Read with her recaps, and I ended up listening to the whole thing and was just kind of like enthralled with this fantasy fairy smut, as she called it. And I was just kind of like, she skipped over a lot of the steamy stuff. So honestly, I kind of want to just like get the Kindle books or something so I can like check it out myself, because I am missing a lot of that part of it.
For sure. Well, okay. I love that you've gone into a deep dive on that. That's pretty awesome. I do think the story's really cool. And yes, it does have the spicy stuff in it, but I think the story is cool. But they also have like audiobooks, like really good audiobooks, and they've got graphic audio, which is like the full cast version.
I love the graphic audio things. I did the one for Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. It was so good.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, the cast is like super, super good on it. And so if you're interested in checking it out and you're not like weird about like kissing sounds and stuff, you should check out the graphic audio too.
Oh, I can only imagine what my girlfriend would do if she walked in on me listening to that. I mean, there's been some stuff in the Dresden Files where it's gotten racy, and she's been like, what are you listening to?
As far as I'm concerned, that could totally be a couple's activity. So you never know, she might join you.
I'll have to give it a shot. So what do you think it was about the series that really hooked you in?
Well, so I grew up around fantasy. Like my whole household would play MMOs together when I was a kid. And so I've always been, So like, I don't know if you've heard of it, but Ultima Online, like the original MMO, that was our jam. So, but I've always been primed to love anything in the fantasy space. But the combination of fantasy plus the romance, and I don't want to say it was just the romance or the fantasy, but in this particular series, it was like the subversive nature of the romance plot that really hooked me. And by subversive, I mean that, and you've heard because you've done the recap, but, and I'm going to try to avoid spoilers, but in book 2, there's like a huge pivot in the plot from book 1. And so I remember finishing book 1, setting it down on my lap and kind of staring off into space and thinking, okay, cool. But am I crazy for wanting to see such and such happen? And so book 2 actually does exactly what I wanted it to do. And I didn't know that you could do that in books. And so it delivered in the best way. I like to joke that the second book, which is called A Court of Mist and Fury, or ACOMF, altered my brain chemistry. And it's the only book that I own like 5 editions of, because I love it so much, and like just what it did to like my brain, and what you can do with narrative like just really enthralled me. And so But I think that like for new listeners, the first book, especially the second half, like can really suck you in. But for a lot of people, it's the second book that just like really pulls you into the story. You'll know by the second book if you're into the series or not, I think.
Yeah, I think so. The twist you're talking about in the second book, I definitely felt was lined up pretty subtly to the point where it was like, yeah, I could see why you would want that. And I think I seen it coming a little bit, but I don't even remember what I thought about it when it first got revealed to me by Carrie Can Read.
Right. It's really fun. Like you're right, like that she sets it up so subtly in the first book, that like if you go back and do a reread of the series, you see all these points where you're just like, oh my God, it's been set up from the beginning. Like, so it's just really, really cool. It's awesome.
So what do you think it is about the series that made it so wildly popular, especially on like TikTok?
Oh, TikTok, book talk. So I think I have two answers for that. And it all kind of revolves around, sorry to name drop, but it all kind of revolves around this other series called Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I think that's the romantasy that I think people would agree put romantasy on the map, like in the mainstream. So before Fourth Wing, TikTok and Instagram also were homes of like fan art and fan theories and lots of memes. This series is like super, super memeable. It has staying power for that reason, I think. The creativity, I would say, of some people online who like bring the characters to life through art. Or through cosplaying. There's like a ton of cosplaying that all really thrived in those social spaces. So it was like a happy little universe. And then I think it was after Fourth Wing came out a couple of years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago now at this point. I think that's when ACOTAR sort of became the de facto recommendation of what to read if you loved Fourth Wing. And so after that, it was after Fourth Wing came out that I started seeing ACOTAR stuff like everywhere. So at first it was like, cool, these are my people. Like I found my people. But then the dialogue started turning more and more like divided. And so now I would say that the TikTok space is kind of half super popular and excited about the series and half really kind of critical of the series. And so it's both like popular and anti-popular now on social media, which makes me a little sad.
Other fans in the community suggested that I ask you this one here. Who do you prefer, Nessa or Feyre? And
oh no,
who's your favorite character in the series, if not one of these two?
So that's like a super divisive question. And so I'm sorry in advance if half the people who are listening to this just like rage close their phone after I give my opinion on this. But okay, let me say before I answer this question that these two characters, Nesta and Feyre, they're sisters. And I think that they both have their strengths and their flaws. Feyre is like stubborn, kind of resentful, prickly, but also kind of a nurturer at heart. And Nesta is cold and untrusting and very imperial, but also like just very, very strong. And so they have a lot of strength, but they're also not for everybody. So you could tell either of them to not do something, and you'll see either of them doing it with daggers in their eyes. Okay, so all of that being said, I am a ride or die for Feyre, and I will always also be a restand girly. So gotta love a bad baddie, but for me, it's always going to be Feyre, and I still love the Nesta girlies.
I gotta say I agree with you there from what I know, and just what you were saying earlier about the community with memes and cosplaying. I seen a really, really good culmination of the two the other day where a girl was cosplaying as Feyre and she had a picture that was stick people that said me and Rysand. And I was dying. I was not aware of that meme in your guys' community of making fun of Feyre's art. And it was it was pretty great introduction to that.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a bit of a headcanon in the fandom, is because obviously Feyre is really big into art. That's like one of her. It's like one of her biggest things. And so there's this kind of fun little headcanon that she's actually terrible at it, and then everybody kind of just like pats her on the head and just like, great job, Feyre. It's pretty funny.
So, who do you think would be your next runner-up for favorite character?
Let's see. I mean, Feyre, obviously, I feel like I identify with her a lot. And I mentioned I'm Rhysand ride or die too. But if I had to pick a different person, I'm gonna say Lucien. I think that Lucien deserves way more love than he gets, and if he doesn't end up with a happy ending, I will burn every book that I own.
And who would be your least favorite character?
Okay, so I like this question actually, because depending on who you get on your podcast, you're going to get so many different answers. But you got me, so I'll tell you. There are just a lot of people who hate like certain main characters for X, Y, or Z reasons. So some people will say Tamlin, and some people will say Rhysand, some people will say Feyre, some will say Nesta, and some will say Elaine for some reason. I guess she's too boring or like nice. I don't know. People don't like boring or nice. But anyways, nobody will ever say Azriel, so he's safe. But I personally am really big on redemption arcs and like reading with nuance and compassion. And so I'm not going to say that my least favorite character is any of the main characters. I tend to hate the characters that are hateable. So basically your two options are Hybern, who is the king across the sea, or Amarantha. In between the two of those, I think Amarantha was the more spiteful of the two. So I'm going to say Amarantha. She's cruel and she's wicked and very, very detestable. So you meet her in the first book, you might remember.
Yeah, she was pretty nasty.
She's just nasty, just a mean old lady.
So, of all the books in the series, which one would you say is your favorite one?
That's easily the second book. So, A Court of Mist and Fury, followed closely by Wings and Ruin, which is the third book. I really loved the war aspect in the third book.
What do you think it is about the second one that makes it your favorite?
Oh, I really think that it comes back to that subversion of the romance that is set up in the first book. And I don't want to like spoil anything, so I'll leave it. But I actually feel very protective of the series regarding spoilers. So I'll just say that it genuinely felt like a magical experience. And I know that sounds really cheesy to say, but it felt like just reading it, like starting it, and you're just like, wow, Feyre's in this horrible like mental space. She just needs somebody to kind of scoop her up and take care of her or whatever. And just her growth as a character, kind of pulling her own self up, and the connections and the found family that she gets. And then of course the romance that builds really, really, really slowly throughout the book. It just feels like magic. I love it so much. I think I've read it probably 5 times.
That's great. Did you dislike any of the books in the series, or are there any low points that you found?
So you remember, okay, you know that I've already said that I'm big on reading with like nuance and compassion for all the characters. So I'm going to try to navigate this really carefully. But let me say that the only book that I've only read one time, meaning the book that I always skip on my rereads, is the last book, which is A Court of Silver Flames. This book is, I'll just say because we've already talked about Feyre and Nesta, but this book pivots from being Feyre's POV to following Nesta. And so we already know about the rivalry between them. And I feel like Silver Flames is the book that started the division kind of in the fandom. And I don't, there are so many people whose favorite book in the series is this book. And I don't think those people are wrong. I think there's so much to get from it. really highlights like a healing journey, a lot of strength. You know, people find a lot to resonate with Nesta's journey, and you know, other people really resonate strongly with Feyre in her books, and I'm more of the latter. And so the whole situation's complex. I think we could all use a little bit more nuance and compassion. But for me, Silver Flames was a departure from what was originally meant to be the like core trilogy. And so for me, the trilogy is my favorite, and everything that comes after is just, it just feels different, you know? So I don't even hate the story. It's that I just hate that it divided the fandom so much. That's what I would say.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can definitely see why that would be a bit of a like thorn, just the division there. It seems like it was probably more of a united fandom before people started taking sides.
That, you know, that's my best guess. I started this series in like 2022, I think is when I joined. So that book had already been out. So it could be that I'm just making all that up, but I don't think that I am. That seems to be that seems to be like the crux of a lot of issues in the fandom is Nesta versus Feyre, or Nesta versus Rhysand. And
so are there any major misconceptions around the series that people commonly have?
Yes, and this is a hill I'm going to die on. You actually kind of hit on it earlier when you had introduced it, but the idea that this series is fairy porn is like, in my opinion, like a common misconception that people have. A lot of people who haven't read the book seem to have this impression that it's just like all smut with pointy ears, and that's like so far from the truth. And like, yeah, there are sex scenes in this story, just like there are sex scenes in movies and shows, like whatever. But at least in the core trilogy, you could cut out all of the sexual content and you'd still be left with like 95% of the story, you know? So it's not like you don't pick up ACOTAR for the smut, you know? But there, you know, there's literature that's written to be like a sexual experience, and then there's stuff that's like actual story, but it has sex in it. And I really like the latter, not quite as big of a fan of the former. I love a good plot with a side of romance. So I will say that the last book in the series, again, that was Silver Flames, is by far the sexiest of them all. And that's probably partly why I like it the least, to be honest. I feel like if you cut out all the sex scenes, you would lose a pretty big chunk of that book. But anyway, so I think that ACOTAR has this preconceived notion of being smut, but I think that does a disservice to the series because, like, on one hand, you I lost my train of thought. Oh,
no
sorry,
worries.
go ahead.
I do think it's really unfair that when a series aimed at women that has sexual content is labeled as smut, even though the sex scenes in it are more romance than anything, as where something like Game of Thrones has full on like sexual abuse and stuff, and it's not considered to be smutty. It's kind of a double standard to me. It's like a story can have sex and not be smut. Like tons of stories have sexual scenes in them, but it doesn't, if there's story around it, it's not really smut in my opinion.
You and I will die on this hill together, Brody. I completely agree with you. And you brought up Game of Thrones. I love Game of Thrones, but there's not a whole lot of consensual sex going on in that series. But yeah. You know, we don't talk about that nearly as much. But in ACOTAR, the romance is all consensual. You know, that should be a good thing. But for some reason, it's demonized. And I agree with you completely that I think that it's more because of the target audience being largely women. I think that for some reason we are just not having that.
It's so weird. Like, we live in 2025. There are so many women whose careers are made on OnlyFans, and yet we can't like just openly embrace fake people like getting it on for a little bit. Like, it's a story.
I know. I completely agree with you. I am so glad to have somebody to stand beside me on this hill. It's bad.
So, little less positive question here. Have you ever had any negative experiences with another fan, whether it be in person or online?
Well, yes, definitely. Like, I think I've hit on how the fandom can be pretty divided, unfortunately. That's like any fandom, I think. But my negative interactions have definitely increased a lot in the last couple of years. Just there's one that stands out to me that I still have not gotten over, mind you. After like a year, I still think about it sometimes. Somebody on Instagram called me, quote, unsafe for trauma survivors to be around, end quote, because I'm a Feyre fan. And I've also had another person send me like this whole dissertation of all the reasons why I should hate a character that I love. And I just like, I'm not trying to read that. Like, I love the characters for the reason that I love the character. You don't for the reasons that you don't, whatever. But not a whole lot of chill in the fandom these days, it seems.
Well, I hope any ACOTAR fans who do come here can kind of come out of it and realize that we're all fans and we all just need to get along and appreciate that you guys might not have the same favorite character, but you guys love the same series and you guys can like, they can love their character without attacking you and treating you like a bad person. They need to stop identifying with the character so damn much, I think.
I totally agree. I think, I think it's easy to identify the characters in this series because there's a lot of messages about like hope and love and strength and courage, especially for female characters. But when you get to the point where you're like cutting other people down just systematically because they have an opinion about one character, and I mean this about Feyre and Nesta both. Like, I think both of those characters are awesome characters, and I think that we should kind of highlight the strengths of both of those characters instead of using them to weaponize, and to divide ourselves further. There's too much division in the world these days anyway.
Oh, definitely. Everybody wants to slap labels and just create camps of division and like argue about things. It's one of the shitty things about the internet.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's kind of it's an awesome place to be, but it's kind of a sad and scary place to be too.
Yeah, I got my first random threat from a crazy person the other day who apparently, despite never having heard from them before, they told me to keep their name out of my podcast. So I guess I won't mention the name, but I was like, okay, dude, I've never heard of you in my life, and I'm sorry.
Okay, like was it just like, by the way, don't ever say the name Jeff again? Like
no,
what was it?
He had the same last name as me, and apparently he lives in my city, and he's like, we are not related. Keep my name out of your shit. And I was like, what? I've never heard of you. I've never spoken about you. I've definitely never mentioned him on this show. So it was pretty wild. If he hears this, I really don't care. But it was pretty wild. He's blocked now, but
well, that's good. Hopefully he's not listening to this episode because that's not the energy we want in the ACOTAR fandom.
Yeah, definitely not. So, if you could change any plot point in the series or anything like that, is there anything that you would change, and why would you choose to change that thing?
Okay, so one thing does come to mind, but I'm going to say that in order for me to explain this, there has to be spoilers. So anybody who wants to read the series spoiler free, avert thine ears for a moment because I'm going to share something that happens in the last book.
Yeah, we're probably going to get a little spoilery heavy from here on. The next question is going to be related to theories about the future of the series. Ooh. So we will definitely be getting into some more spoilery stuff from here on. So if you haven't read the series, I would suggest turning back now.
All right. Okay, so the scene that I was thinking of, in the last book, somebody ends up pregnant. And some people say, oh, I hate the pregnancy trope. Like, I don't care about the pregnancy trope. I think it's awesome. It's fine, whatever. I think the author included that because she was going through that in her own life. And I think it was just kind of a mirror for herself. So cool, whatever. But I think that it was handled poorly by more than one character. One person withheld vital information from their pregnant partner, which I agree was totally shitty. And honestly, like so out of character for that person that I hate what it's done to their character arc. And then there's this other character who revealed that hidden information in a very spiteful way. And so it's one of those points that a lot of people bicker over. And I kind of just wish that it's not the pregnancy that bothers me. I just wish that it would have been handled in a different way, because I think it's going to be very hard to bring everybody back together, to kind of hold hands and sing Kumbaya for the next book.
Yeah, honestly, I had completely forgotten about how the reactions to that went and stuff until you mentioned it. It was pretty wild. I could see how that scene and stuff could divide the fandom.
For sure. Like, yeah, it was like seismic, like the way that people just got so split up over that. Just the whole last book. Oh, I just wish that it was received in a different way.
So to wrap things up as far as questions go here before we get into the 3 review segment, do you have any theories on the next book in the series?
I love theories. I do. I read very closely looking for theories. So I have a ton of theories. Oh, good. You and I are like book twins. I've got like a ton of them. I'll just share a couple. The first one that I would really like to see, my first theory is that Rhysand is going to become the High King of Prythian, which is, as you know, the land where all the 7 fairy courts are. So right now he's the High Lord of the Night Court, but I think, or I hope, that he's going to end up becoming like in the face of like all the new threats that are being introduced in the new part of the series. I'm hoping he becomes High King, which is something that, if I recall correctly, has only ever happened once, like a very, very long time ago. And so I hope that comes back. I would really like to see that for his character arc. And then the other one is, I think everybody wants to know what's going to happen with Elaine. You may or may not know that it's kind of left off where she's in this potential like love triangle between her mate, who is Lucian, and the guy that she has eyes for, who is Asriel. And so it's a very like fated love versus forbidden love thing. Which you're going to be really surprised to hear this, but this little division has caused a lot of uproar in the fandom. People have taken sides about Elreal and Elution. So anyways, so my theory is that Elaine is going to end up somehow involved with the Spring Court. She's always been described as like, flowers and softness in spring. So I don't know how that's going to happen. Like, in my mind, Tamlin is going to die for his redemption arc, and Lucian's going to end up inheriting the Spring Court, and he's going to bring Elaine with him. So that's kind of what I imagine. But I have to share this one theory that I have. This is not my theory. I have to give credit to, what's her name? Emily's theories on TikTok. She has this whole theory about how Elaine might actually be like Persephone. So like the goddess of spring, but also the queen of the underworld. And she has like this whole awesome argument about Elaine somehow, and I don't want to spoil anything because they're potential ties to other series that this author has written, but Elaine becoming the queen of the underworld would be the most badass thing. And Emily's theories on TikTok, you should check her out. She has tons and tons of like cool support for this theory, and so I really hope to see her going that direction. Elaine, in the later book, she ended up becoming kind of like this seer. She was kind of like kind of half in Prythian and kind of half zoned out, like she was in some sort of murky realm. And so like I like to think that she's got like one foot in Prythian and one foot in hell. And so it's wild, but it's such a cool theory.
I love it. That's so creative. That's the fact that you can tie it into other series gives it like so much more credibility, it feels like.
Yes, definitely. And if it's something that interests you, you should definitely like at least check out the summaries of her other series too, because they're
sorry.
like, Oh yeah, go ahead.
I wasn't aware. Are her other book series connected to A Court of Thorn and Roses?
They may or may not be suggestive, wink.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look into that then, because I was not aware of that aspect. So I guess I've got some more to check out.
You've got some work to do. There's a reason that they call it the Massverse.
Okay,
that's all I'm going to say.
Okay, that's really good to know. Awesome. So we're going to get into the reviews here. We're going to start with a 3-star review. All 3 of these are going to be from Goodreads. This one is by Annie. I'm going to just stick to the first chunk of it here because it gets pretty long and it has a pretty good part for me to cut through. So it is... I'm so glad you guys all gave me the strength to actually read it and saying that it'll get better after the second half. Crying face for real. Thank you.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's so real. Okay, I'll tell you. It took me when I said I was laid out with COVID and I read the whole series, that was a mild lie, because it actually took me like a month to get through the first half of the first book. And then like once you get to around like 2/3 of the way, I think it's like chapters like 33 to 35. That's when it picks up really, really, really quickly. And then from there, it's just like, woo, just we're going on a ride. But I totally agree. Actually, the first half is super slow. And if you're currently stuck in that rut, just give it until chapter maybe like 33, I think is when it is. And if by that point you're not even remotely interested in what happens, put it down. Honestly, don't push yourself to keep reading it if you're not that invested by that point. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I don't know what it is lately, but every book series I've gotten into in the last little while, from like Dresden Files to Stormlight Archive, I've not loved it until like the first like maybe third or 2/3 I'm done through. And then I go back, I'm like, okay, like I'm missing something. I'm like confused. I go back, I check it out, especially with audiobooks. And then all of a sudden I'm hooked. I'm like, what was I thinking? Like, this is amazing.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like the world building or just what, but I've noticed that to be the case for me too. Like with Fourth Wing, for example, like super popular series, took me probably 40 to 50% to really start feeling like I was flying with it.
Yeah, so I'm not familiar with that series, so it's gonna have to be something I check out too.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's like the romantasy. So if you're not reading Fourth Wing, what are you doing?
So the next review is from Emily. It's a 2-star review. As others mentioned, this feels like Bella Swan trying to act like Katniss Everdeen. So basically, this was Twilight with fairies instead of vampires, and some cringy love/sex scenes.
Okay, well, yeah, I disagree systematically. I don't think that there was much to redeem about Bella Swan as much as I liked that series back in the day. I think Feyre and Katniss is a good parallel, but I disagree. I think she's way cooler than that.
Yeah, I mean, Bella Swan is kind of just a nothing character. I feel like like, I don't have anything against Twilight, but like, I don't think too many people are gonna defend Bella as a super well-written character. She's very much a audience insert, I feel like.
I agree. And this might be a little bit of a tangent, but just recently, earlier this year, I reread Twilight, and it hit me so strongly that Edward is the actual protagonist of Twilight, and that his story is really the fascinating one. It's not Bella at all. So when you kind of switch your perspective that way, I think it makes so much more sense.
Yeah, it's true. Like, he's the one who develops as a character throughout the series. Bella stays relatively stagnant until pretty much the last book, until she really does anything with agency. And that's mostly just around her choosing to keep her baby and stuff. And everything else is more Edward learning to grow as a person, despite
That's
not
100%
being a person.
True. He's not even a person. But if you haven't read Midnight Sun, which is Twilight from his perspective, I think it really highlights how he's more of the protagonist in the series.
I think I got the audiobook for free sometime, but I've never actually checked it out. I've never read any of the Twilights, to be honest.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. It's, I mean, also don't read it. You know, it's not that culturally relevant anymore, but you know, for the audiobook, if you need something to listen to, is very good. I think it's done by Jake Abel.
Yeah, I believe that's the one I got. I got it for free for some random thing. I think I was like, buy 3 audiobooks and get this Twilight book. I was like, I mean, I was going to buy 3 books anyways.
They're trying so hard. I love it.
So the last review here is going to be a 1-star review by Megan.
All right, Megan.
My favorite line of this book sums up my reading experience. My bowels turned watery. I couldn't
I knew that's what you
help
were gonna
it.
say. I knew that's what you were going to say. Okay, obviously disagree, but that's another thing that lives just rent free in the fandom is joking about the author's overuse of terminology about watery bowels. So yeah, don't love that. But okay, so I give that aspect of the book 1 star easily, hands down. I agree with you, Megan.
Well, at least you can be grown up about it and don't get super offended when somebody gives a 1-star review.
I mean, to be fair, it doesn't bring a whole lot of critique to it. I mean, that one's easy to agree with. You and me both, Megan.
Well, thanks a lot for coming on, Michelle. It has been a blast getting to talk ACOTAR with you.
Likewise, I honestly, I live and breathe this series, so I'm happy to talk about it. And I just appreciate you inviting me on. This has been a lot of fun, Brody.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. And anyone listening, if you want to be on the show, you can find us on Reddit at the Fandoms Pod Official, or on Facebook, Discord, or any of the socials linked on the Reddit. Thanks a lot for listening, and hope you tune in again. Thanks for listening. If you like the show, make sure you follow us and rate 5 stars and share it with all your friends. If you'd like to be a guest, email us at pod.fandoms@gmail.com, or you can message us on Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, or Reddit. You can also join our Discord to chat with other fans, suggest questions for upcoming episodes, or find out about our new shows dropping soon. If you want to be super deadly, you can join our Patreon as well. Thanks for all your support. See you next time.